Welcome to your weekly astrology forecast for the week of February 17th through February 23rd. I am your host, Laura Chung. Thank you so much for being here. And we have such an exciting week ahead. The main transit is Mars finally goes direct. Finally. Oh my gosh. And thank you so much for all of your likes, subscribes, and comments. I've been reading your comments and thank you so much for your support. And yeah, I'm just so excited to be doing this every week. I started this as a commitment, very Saturn and Pisces, my commitment to bringing more of this content to the interwebs and to making longer form content. And it has proved to be very fruitful for me. I feel very fulfilled. So thank you so much for your support. And just a quick recap of the week of February 10th through the 16th. I mentioned this in last week's forecast that the Super Bowl was going to occur on Sunday and that President Donald J. Trump was going to be in attendance and he would be the first US president to do so. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Kendrick Lamar's halftime Super Bowl show and not the discourse that's going on online, whether he is a revolutionary or not, or interjecting myself in the commentary and discourse of the symbolism of Kendrick's Super Bowl halftime show. But I will say that he has his Mars in the sign of Cancer at 17 degrees, which is where Mars is stationing direct. Now, Mars has been at 17 degrees now since February 11th. So it's kind of just been sitting right there. And I want to talk about Mars in Cancer just a little bit here as part of the recap, because on February 23rd, Mars will go direct at 17 degrees of Cancer. Another person that has Mars in Cancer is Jalen Hurts, who is the quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, who won the Super Bowl, and he was the MVP. I didn't know that much about Jalen Hurts, but now kind of researching him and researching the Philadelphia Eagles, and wow, what a what a team to support, and what an amazing fan base they have. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. But Jalen Hurts was born the same year that Doechii was born. I think both of them were 1998. I wrote their information down somewhere in a notebook somewhere. But Jalen Hurts also has his Mars in Cancer. And when I did research into him, I was like, wow, what an interesting person. He has an all-female management team, and he is the first person in NFL history to do so. And that to me is very Mars in Cancer. It's advocating for women. It's advocating for just the best people who happen to be women. And he is quoted as saying, I just wanted the best. And it just so happens that all of my management team are women. And Cancer is the archetype of the mother, of the nurturer, the caretaker, all things feminine in nature. And so I do think it's interesting that Jalen Hurts has his Mars in Cancer and has an all-female management team. And he plays a very Martian sport, which is American football. Another person that has Mars in Cancer is Doechii. Now, again, Doechii and Jalen Hurts are both Leos. So they're both Leo suns. So right now, being in Aquarius season, the sun is opposing their natal sun placement. And so when you have oppositions like that, it is the nature of a full moon. So something coming to fruition. And Doechii, so I went down this Doechii rabbit hole. I watched a couple of her YouTube videos from 2020 and her just saying that she's going to be authentic to herself. She's going to make music that is in alignment with her talents and skills and her authenticity. She's not going to make music just because her fans and the music industry wants her to make. And from what I understand, she is literally creating her own genre of rap. She just won a Grammy for Best Rap Album. And one of the videos I watched, she basically is scripting and saying out loud like her manifestations of what kind of art she wants to create. And she doesn't follow the traditional formula of a song, but her own song format, her own genre of music. And I just thought that was so Mars and Cancer, because Mars is fallen in the sign of Cancer. Mars kinds of, and I didn't actually check to see if their each of their Mars are also out of bounds, but they are going against the grain in some way. They're going against the mold in some way, shape, or form. And so I just thought that was so interesting how their Mars and Cancers are represented and embodied in Mars in Cancer retrograde, because I wanted to give them as an example, because we oftentimes think of planets in their detriment or their fall to be weak, or, you know, yeah, that is the misconception of planets in their fall or detriment, that like you can't use them. They're not as strong as planets in their domicile or their exaltation. And also to debunk this idea that retrogrades are all bad, because I believe retrograde, meaning to go back in time, meaning to reflect, meaning to review, right? In some instances, though, I see like past efforts and past work coming back during retrogrades, and people winning awards and people progressing in their career. So Doechii and Jalen Hurts and Kendrick Lamar, and these are just three examples I found of people with Mars and Cancer put in the work years ago, when they were like, for Kendrick's instance, when he is in that rap battle with Drake, and he is doing, which is very Mars, right? Battle. And he has Mars very closely conjunct his Mercury being the planet of communication. That conjunction is literally about rap battles. And Jalen Hurts, during the season, he's working really hard, and Doechii creating these songs in the past. And now during the retrograde, they are able to reap the rewards of their past efforts. So I just wanted to give these as an example of why planets in their fall, planets in their detriment during retrogrades is not always bad. It doesn't mean that you're always just going to like never get anything accomplished, or it's a time where nothing happens, because that could be furthest from the truth. So anyway, it doesn't really matter what you believe about Kendrick or Drake, right? Or your own personal opinion. I'm just using them as an example to say that they are at the pinnacle of their career right now. I don't know anything bigger than performing for 150 million viewers on the Super Bowl halftime show, Jalen Hurts winning the Super Bowl, and Doechii winning a Grammy. So that is the recap. And we are going to move into the week of February 17th through 23rd. The biggest transit, like I mentioned, is that Mars will go direct. And Mars right now is sitting still at 17 degrees. So do you want to look at where you have your cardinal placements? So the cardinal signs are Cancer, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. In and around, like, I would say, I use a tight orb. So like 14 to 20 degrees of these signs. And you want to pay attention, because when Mars changes direction, because right now Mars is the closest to Earth. When planets, specifically Mars, is in retrograde, it is the most ferocious, it is the most fiery. And when Mars stations to go direct, it changes direction, and so will we. We will change direction in some way. Another point that I wanted to make is that in medical astrology, Cancer rules the stomach. So this is all about trusting your gut. Your stomach is your second brain. This is where the solar plexus is located, which is the seat of your power, your willpower, your confidence. And so I also think that attributes to Kendrick Lamar's, Jalen Hurts, and Doechii's success is they really listen to their gut. They really listened to their inner willpower, their inner confidence to do whatever form of art that their industry is in. So, as I mentioned, Mars has been at 17 degrees since February 11th, and Jupiter just stationed to go direct on February 4th, and Jupiter has been at 11 degrees since January 14th. So even though technically these planets are moving forward, since they are standing still at the same degree, you might still feel like you're stuck. And this is a general collective feeling I've been talking about with my friends and just listening to other people share and what my clients are going through. Everybody just feels like nothing is happening and that everything is at a standstill. And that also has to do with the fact that these planets are in the furthest away from their home sign. So the furthest away from their home sign is like Jupiter in the sign of Gemini, right? And when planets are in their fall, like Mars is in Cancer. And then we're going to have a Venus retrograde in Venus is detriment in the sign of Aries. So there's something about this like cosmic lesson that we have to integrate these parts of ourselves that are like so hard to reach, the crevices of our psyche, the parts of us that we are usually unaware of until there's a trigger point that makes it come to the surface. And I know a lot of people have been triggered by Mars and Cancer because, again, like Cancer is our need to feel safe and secure. And most of the time we feel safe and secure at home. When we feel the safest, we feel that we are taken care of financially, emotionally, physically, mentally. And so when those things are taken away or when you don't feel safe, that is when your trigger points might flare up, as it will. On February 18th, the sun will ingress into the sign of Pisces, and we will be in Pisces season. So we go from Aquarius, which is a fixed air sign, ruled by Saturn, which is like cold and fixed, right? It's like the middle of winter, to then Pisces, which is a mutable water sign. And this is the time of year, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, when the snow melts and then there's mud on the ground and things just like dissolve and disintegrate. And, it's a mutable water sign. So it's just like all about compassion and empathy and spirituality and unity consciousness and feeling things at a very vibrational level. When I think of Pisces, I think of music and art, things that you feel that you don't necessarily can hold tangibly in your grasp. So that's Pisces season. And we will be in Pisces season until the Aries ingress in March. Now, I'm laughing just because I feel like this is the calm before the storm. And I've said this in so many weekly forecasts and monthly forecasts. March is going to rock our world. And I don't want to project, right? Because like our minds are so powerful because our minds work in very different psychological mechanisms of priming. So we tend to notice things that we focus on. We have confirmation bias. So we tend to look in our environment to confirm our belief systems. And then we have a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we believe something enough, it will come true. And then there's like the placebo effect of like, it really is our beliefs. We don't manifest what we desire. Sometimes we manifest what we believe. And that is why it's like, in the one hand, I want to be honest and I want to tell you like the reality of the situation. And the other hand, I'm like, but also be careful of your beliefs and your thoughts, because if we are all locked into we are fucked, we are just doomed, then collectively our hive mind, right, will lock into that reality. Whereas it's like, it's good to know what's real, what's reality, and honor the realness, the 3D, the physical of what could happen to a lot of people, right? Depending on your identities, intersections of your identity that are privileged and oppressed. but also it's important to then detach and say, okay, but I can also focus on the reality that I want to see happen. February 20th, Mercury in Pisces will square Jupiter in Gemini at 11 degrees. And remember what I mentioned about Jupiter standing still at 11 degrees since January 14th. Since January 14th, Jupiter has been sitting. And Jupiter is the planet of expansion, opportunity, abundance. So again, I feel like a lot of people have been grappling with their optimism or lack thereof. A lot of people have been grappling with their financial situations. I just did a video about this on TikTok and Instagram, where a lot of people are feeling scarcity and poverty consciousness flare-ups, and also just grappling with like the reality of the system that doesn't allow us to be interdependent and financially abundant within the structure of capitalism. And I think this is where we as a collective have to choose differently. We as a collective have to decide, like, this isn't the structure that we want anymore. And then we all have to collectively change it, because this isn't going to happen by just one person, right? This is going to be a collective effort. And Mercury and Gemini are, Mercury and Jupiter are in mutual reception, meaning that each of the planets are in the other planet signs. So Mercury is at home in Gemini, Jupiter is at home in Pisces. And actually, my mom has this placement in her chart natally. And how this shows up is over promising, overdoing, oversaying, over talking. It's like a mutable mess. The last time we had something similar was like around December, when Mercury was in the sign of Sagittarius. So Mercury is also in its detriment in the sign of Sagittarius, and it was opposing Jupiter in Gemini at that time. And there was just like a cacophony of all this information and news that was happening in December. So something in the news, multiple things can be brought up to the surface, some confusion, some just like overabundance of information and news on this day. But in your personal life, this could also be somebody overpromising something to you, or just talking, or you might feel this way. So the best way to use this energy actually is to choose differently, because Mercury is the planet of communication. Mercury at the end of the day in Pisces is also writing. You could really get into like omens and signs and synchronicities and poetry. Jupiter in Gemini is choosing something differently. And yeah, maybe your response this time is different. Maybe you're not going to say anything and you're just going to sit with all of the information that comes through. Maybe your response instead is to listen to music. Maybe your response instead is to say, I'm not going to respond right away, actually. And I'm just going to like sit with it, take it in, integrate, and then I'm going to respond the next day. But yeah, also squares can just be like conflictual ideas, conflictual opinions. And, with the climate these days, the political climate, you see that a lot, especially on social media. So I say this as a warning, but also to use this energy in the highest form that you can, which is maybe not to engage, but to channel that energy into your own art. On February 23rd, Mercury in Pisces will trine Mars retrograde in Cancer at 17 degrees. And this is a lovely aspect. Mercury trine, any planet is like a little tap of communication, I think of Mercury in Greek mythology as Hermes, and Hermes was the one with the winged feet. And Hermes likes to go to each, god and collect the tea and like commiserate on what everyone's saying. And so Mercury is the fastest moving planet in our solar system besides the moon. And so Mercury touching Mars retrograde right before it goes direct is saying like, okay, what is the last lesson? What is the last message of this very long Mars retrograde that I need to like be aware of. And again, trines are harmonious, they're flowing. And when I think about trines, I think about like water flowing very easily. Whereas squares, there's like, you're at a stop sign and you're waiting for the other person to go, but it's like your turn, that kind of thing. This is a lovely day to also communicate with somebody, like send a message, write an email, start a newsletter. Again, Pisces is the archetype of compassion and empathy and building bridges. And Cancer is the sign of the home, of nurturing, of mothering. I don't know, you could just send really cute messages to your community like, I'm here for you. Let's like build something together. I just saw somebody's post that my friend Anita Kopach sent me, that this trans woman is trying to build a bookstore, a liberation bookstore in the Hudson Valley where I grew up and where I live. And she was like, let's like try to help her. Let's try to like build this community bookstore, and this is a place where we could gather. Like this is so Mercury, Pisces, trine Mars and Cancer, like actually communicating with each other on next action steps. On the same day, I feel like I'm going to have a party on this day. Mars will station direct at 17 degrees, and this will bring you back to October 5th, which was the last time Mars was at this degree. So think back to October 5th and all that has transpired. Like, I feel like that was so long ago. October, November, December, January, 4 months of a Mars retrograde in the signs of Cancer and Leo. So look at your Cancer and Leo houses, right? This was like stirring something up for you to release and for you to take action on. And now Mars will go forward. And hopefully, when Mars goes forward, some of our apathy will dissipate, some of our feelings of disempowerment will go away, and we'll start to remember that each and every one of us has a special purpose here, and that we're all meant to act and show up in different ways. And I always say, like, we all have a role in the revolution or collective liberation or community or whatever you want to call it. If you don't want to be a part of the revolution, that's fine, but not fine. I'm just kidding. But whatever community you are a part of, you have a role, and your job is to figure out what that role is. And my role, if it isn't apparent to you, is to share information and to educate and to bring all of these conversations to the forefront of our community, because I believe activism, revolution, collective liberation, politics, because everything is political, is spiritual. Like I believe I couldn't do this work without having a spiritual practice behind it. And astrology just happens to be the tool that I use to navigate different cycles and different transits and different lifetimes and being in a historical context, right? And knowing what my role is here, what my purpose is here. So this is really the time, and I hate to say this because I don't like this. I don't like feeling like this, but this is the time to be patient, to sit with your feelings. And I feel like sitting with your feelings is part of the revolution too, because we live in late stage capitalism where we're forced to work, right, to exist here. We are almost times like gaslit by our feelings and like repress it and just like get over it very quickly. But sitting with your feelings and acknowledging how you really feel about something is resistance. It's like, I'm not going to listen to anybody. I'm going to listen to my body. I'm going to listen to what it needs. And right now, I need to sit with whatever's going on, like internally. And I need to honor that. And I need to honor how I really feel about something, because if you don't do that, then how will you really know what you truly desire? Like, I wrote a book about manifestation, how to manifest. It's back here somewhere. I don't know if you could see it. Here we go. How to manifest. It's a 40-day journey. But a 40-day journey can mean like it can also be a month or a year because there's no timeline to truly understand yourself. And really, what I wanted to focus on when it comes to manifestation is that this is a journey towards self and healing all of the distorted beliefs that you acquired being human in this incarnation. And some of these belief systems are just distorted because of the culture we were brought up in, growing up in the country or the culture, or gender conforming rules or age rules and all this shit that we absorb and we take on. And to really sit with like, what do you believe? Like, what do you desire? And I've had to sit with that myself, being a 43-year-old single woman with no kids. And my feeling is that I'm not against anything. Like, I'm not against marriage per se. I'm not against having children. I'm not against like mortgages. My question has always been, why do people want those things? What is it that compels you to desire these things? Is it because you believe you have to in order to get validation from an external source, that you need a safety and security in some way? Are you trying to fill a void? And this curiosity to me is so Jupiter and Gemini. Like, the fact that people aren't curious is very curious to me, because I'm always like, why? Like, why do you want that? And when you distill down to why you want something, that like root cause tells you so much about yourself. And there's no judgment here, because if you really want those things, I'm so happy for you. Everybody should be happy for you. But again, like, the journey towards self is one of the most important journeys you will ever take. It's the heroine's journey of looking internally within you, and everything is within you. And this is the ultimate shift that we will go through from February to March, from Pisces to Aries, and then having all of that Aries activation in March, where it really is like, what is it that you want? What is it that you desire? And what are you willing to risk to do it? Because Aries is a very instinctual, primal energy. It's ruled by Mars. And so that's just a little bit of the flavor of this energy in these next coming weeks until March. And I cannot even believe it's already mid-February already. But anyway, I'm just so happy that Mars is finally going direct. I don't know. I felt personally, I I felt personally violated by Mars in the sign of Cancer, just because it brought up a lot of stuff for me. But I do believe that the next week, understanding what that was all about and integrating those lessons is going to make all of us more stronger and wiser and more courageous in our endeavors. So as always, I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching, and be safe and healthy this week. I will see you next week. Bye.